We are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Open Book. I am Billy Price, co-founder of Billy Footwear, and I've said this many times. I love Open Book. And the reason I love Open Book is because it is such a spectacular opportunity to have conversations with incredible people. We all have a story, and we want to create a platform where we can share those stories. So on screen today with me, we have Nicole. She is the founder of Project 1204. We say 1204. It rolls off the tongue a little bit easier. And well, before I explain anything, I'll give it to Nicole. But first off, Nicole, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honor. What a pleasure. And looking forward to our conversation today.
Well, I know there's lots we can talk about. I know we've talked a lot leading up to this event, but I think a great place to start our conversation and get the ball rolling here is just give some background of Project 1204 and I guess your son Andrew, of how it came to be.
Awesome. Well, Project 1204, not 04, it just doesn't sound right. Kind of came out of due to COVID, right? I had more time on my hands, and this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but it seemed like we always had a crisis that we were, putting fires out for. And so Project 1204 stems from my son, Andrew. Andrew is one of 3 kids, and he's our youngest, and he was a surprise in many ways. He was born with a very rare syndrome. It's called Pallister Killian Syndrome. And it's on the chromosome 12, and there are 4 copies of the short arm P. So that's where we get the names, because that's where the syndrome is located on his chromosomes. And so Project 1204, we support families who are in that rare category like we are. We help create awareness, and we're building community and support. And so that's a little bit of where we are going with it.
Wow, awesome. And Andrew, Andrew is, I guess, the inspiration behind starting the nonprofit. But can you tell us more about Andrew? Because just on your website, reading about Andrew, you paint this picture, this such beautiful picture of the things that Andrew cannot do, but also just the laundry list of things Andrew can do. And one is love.
Yeah, I know. He's so cute. So Andrew, you're right. There's a lot of things Andrew can't do. So he doesn't walk. He doesn't talk. He's 17. He's considered deafblind, very low muscle tone. He needs help in absolutely every bit of his day, all day long, every day. And we did not get Andrew's diagnosis until he was about 5. He had a different diagnosis up until then called Beckwith-Wiedeman Syndrome. And, during that time, we did all the therapies. We were going therapies 3 times a week at the very minimum, outside private therapies, and that was 3 hours at a time. Plus we were having the school therapies come. So we were doubling up, and he just wasn't hitting any milestones. And so we ended up going to a conference in Boston for Beckwith-Wiedeman. And it was at that time, and we brought all his files, and we just wanted to see one family like us, like one child, just tell us we're on the right track. And at that time, he was almost 5, and Andrew wasn't walking, talking, sitting, anything. And all these little kids, when we got to the conference, because we left him home, were running around. They had bigger tongues, but they were, they clearly were not the same as our son. And I immediately went back upstairs to our room, and I cried and realized we're in a different situation. And Dr. Beckwith was there himself, and he said to us, because he had tested positive 3 times, And he said he clearly has tested positive for this, but it's very rare, but he has something in addition, and you need to go find out what it is. And so we did. And sure enough, the night before we went in for the procedure, because they had to do a skin biopsy, I looked up what they were looking for, which was Pallister Killian Syndrome. And it was like Andrew was plastered all over this website. Everybody looked alike, right? So you know how with Down syndrome, there's those facial features, and there's certain characteristics that fit each, syndrome. And it was all of a sudden just a relief to know that we belonged somewhere. We actually, it wasn't the news we wanted because, we read and when the doctor confirmed it, she just said, "I'm so sorry." And I'm like, you know what? Don't be sorry.
Mhm.
Like, we are so happy to know what we have, and we can actually plan, and we can, I can forgive myself, because I felt entirely guilty that all of these things that had happened to Andrew were somehow because of me, right? I nursed him, and I don't know. I mean, you just have enormous guilt. And for the first time, I didn't. I had just this weight of the world lifted somehow. And I was able to talk with other families, and I was able to talk with, and this was just when, I swear, the internet was just coming to. And yeah, so that was my first sense of belonging, right? But it was through the computer. It wasn't locally. And at that time, Andrew was the only one in the state of Minnesota with this, right? And then you put a little further, and we live about 45, 50 minutes from Minneapolis, and we're considered rural. And we have one grocery store, 2 gas stations, a golf course, and it's all about the schools here. And my husband's a teacher. And, it's a great place to raise our girls, but here's Andrew, and he doesn't walk, he doesn't talk, he's considered deafblind, and the list is longer and longer. And it was a hard place to raise him here, right? In some regards, just because, we were kind of the only ones. So we thought, right? And I think fast forward during COVID, realizing that, first of all, I think people need community. You need that sense of belonging. And during COVID, we've always done conferences with our PKS families and syndrome and in that world. But because of COVID, we haven't met for 4 years. So all of a sudden, it just made me think there's got to be local need as well. And so that's kind of how this started. We also, as soon as we learned about Andrew's PKS diagnosis, we just started advocating in our little town. We did a PKS day, which was on December 4th, which is level 4. And where we would have the governor declare a day of PKS Day, a proclamated day. And that served as a really great platform for us to share our story. And part of sharing our story isn't just, hey, this is us.
Right.
But I felt that people were apprehensive to ask us questions. You get the stares, you get the looks, and it was such a different feel than with our girls. So we have 2 beautiful girls, Lindsay and Hannah, and graduated top of their class, and one's an engineer and one's a genetic counselor. And obviously our life was a lot different raising them. And I wanted still that sense of belonging as well. And so sharing our story gave that open dialogue and open conversation. And I wanted people to know how much, like, it didn't matter if I have straight A students or I have a child that doesn't talk and can't walk or feed himself. I want people to know that this is a child that I love as just as much. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that his life with us in our family had such meaning and such purpose. And he gives us a lot of joy. And it's really hard. It's really hard. It's really hard too. And so on these PKS days, I would go to the schools and we talk and whatever. And but we'd also host these awareness nights at the local brewery, Loopland Brewery, which is really good. Got to do a plug for them. But anyways, during these events, I wanted other people to see the faces other than just Andrew, because PKS is so rare, but the facial features are so similar. And so I created a giving tree, and it's in December. It's at the beginning of, the Christmas giving season. And so I would have pictures on a Christmas tree and then with their information on the back. And people would choose a child, and it would be all over the world, and they would send them a gift of Christmas jammies. And part of that stemmed because, every year I'm going down the baby aisle to choose a Christmas gift for our son, no matter the age, and as he gets older, 15, 16, 17, that gets kind of discouraging. And so I needed something to flip my brain to make it something negative into something positive.
Yeah.
And I have learned that if I can focus on someone and giving and sharing, that helps. That helps me. It helps me with my grieving and my process. And it makes, I don't know, I just feel like it's what helps make the world go around,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, most definitely. I mean, everything you're describing. So first off, let me plug your website. I mean, let me make sure to show this off because, folks, if you go to this website, so it's project1204.com, everything that Nicole is talking about, like that emotion and that just love, it just leaps off the page. And I mean, I felt that when I was on your website. And I think it's so amazing too, because, as you're talking about that scene where you're going to try to figure out like the research, try to figure out what's going on. You're the one taking it on to try to sort that out. I mean, I remember, when I thinking back on my own injury, like being in the hospital and with a broken body, and my family just trying to grab onto anything to help kind of connect the dots of what was happening, what the future would look like. I kind of chuckle internally when we were talking about when the internet was first started, because I was a little bit ahead of that too, and you just couldn't find information. You just felt like you're on this island and you had no idea what was going to happen. And it was you kind of bottle it, I guess, because you don't have anyone to talk to. And when we finally started to be able to get connected with people, it felt so much better, because you could kind of grieve, I guess, and you could relieve like some of this like internal stress you didn't know that you're really carrying. So like having the website, like, I mean, but I know this website came along well after the fact, but the community building started much, much earlier. And I just think that's amazing.
Thank you. Well, I think, we all have different needs in this kind of situation, right? And that was very clear with my husband and myself. And my husband is very private, and he is very stoic, and he's just like this, he's just a rock. But this was, I think, a need of mine. I have always been kind of outgoing And so when all of a sudden I felt a fear. Yeah. And I want people to know that there's nothing to fear, and that there's so much more in common than what they may see. And if you just give them a minute or a few and let them in, it heals you. It changes your soul, I swear. And so that connection is something that, especially in smaller communities, I believe, maybe in larger communities too, you can get lost as well, right? But in our worlds, we think that we're all alone. And I think that that's part of that grieving stuff too. Maybe you feel isolated, and your world is different than all your friends, than all your family, than all your blah, 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 blah. And you can go down that rabbit hole real easy and really fast, and it can be real dark. And this is, which I did, years of it. And, I've learned over time that it is truly a choice and that we can help one another. And it doesn't take a lot either. It really doesn't, to help one another out. Like just picking up the phone or saying hello, or just actually looking at your child with, not in fear, but like, hey, Andrew, it's so good to see you today. Just, it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, plus, it's a sense of being included, right? I mean, inclusion is, we talk about community. Community includes everybody. So we all need to be able to, be in that environment and celebrate just life in general, right? I mean, just to come together as a community and try to take on those bigger tasks. And I know that your nonprofit is doing that. I mean, even being a small community, I mean, you're sharing like some of these big endeavors you have coming up the next year. Like you talked about, December 4th is a big day, a big give back. Can you talk about your upcoming gala?
I would love to. So obviously it's in the plans, but every December 4th, we host a gala, and it's a fun, fancy sit-down dinner. The women usually love it, and the men usually hate it. Like dressing up anyways, right? But Becker, our little town, we don't have a lot of reasons to get all fancy. And so I just feel like it's one of those times, and it's a salute to our families and our kids like Andrew. And so part of it is just really creating a buzz and a stir so people, take note that here we are, here's Andrew, here's the other families like us who are doing the same thing, who are outstanding, who are, they're incredible, in researching and finding resources, and they are the ones doing it. And just kind of lifting those families up and giving spotlight to them, giving them a platform to share a story. Last year at our gala, we had Jamie St. Dennis share her story on Moya, who she's never met one other child, not online, not anywhere. And it was the first time she's ever talked in public or anything. And there was not a dry eye in the place. And it was super powerful. I just think it's needed. So anyways, we shed light on families. We raise money. And that helps support our other initiative, which is Operation Christmas Jammies. And like I had shared before, we had done this giving tree. Well, Andrew has all kinds of medical issues, and one of them is he kept fracturing his bones, his femurs. And so one year I had posted, I'm like, I can't do this giving tree this year. I'm just too busy. He had just refractured his hip, and a friend reached out and said, we'd love to help you. And so they created it online. So now it's actually an online thing where people can go. And so that's where some of this is going. What we're looking for is exposure so that we can gain Project 1204 families who we can actually serve and we can help. And so come Christmas time, it'll be before Christmas time because we're hoping to get the jammies out right after the 4th. But our 1204 families will just go and sign up. They'll share their child's name and a story on them. And then we have a website that, they'll be featured. And then their family can share that on their social media. And it's no cost to them at all. And they will get a gift package in the mail. It'll be Christmas jammies. And we chose that because, again, not all kids can play with a toy. And for me, caregiving is a part of my ability to connect with my son. And he may not talk to me, but he can touch me a certain way. He breathes a certain way. I know he's comfortable, and that gives me joy. And so the jammies represents that to me. Okay. And I also think it's fun to take pictures when they're all cute and all that. So anyways, so families will get a package in the mail for their child. And again, no cost to them. And then that's a way for the community to get involved. They can sponsor a child online. And so, yeah, so it's been well received on both ends in the community as well as the families. And we're really excited about it. And we have other goals as well in the future to connect with new diagnoses. And so we have kind of big goals. And but we're just plugging away and we're going to see where it goes.
That's awesome. Well, I'd imagine too, when you make those connections, it's also a matter of just sharing information. And I'm curious, is that how Billy Footwear landed on your radar?
It's absolutely how Billy Footwear came on my radar. Because us moms, we're always sharing like what is the latest or greatest, and because there's not a lot of latest and greatest, you know what I mean? Like you talk about worlds getting small, like our choices for cool shoes, you know what I mean, for our kids, like it's not always an option. And I think it's really important at least it is for me to dress my son well, just as I would with my girls. Like why should Andrew have big, thick shoes on that nobody would want to wear? Or, you know what I mean? Yeah, like he's a cool kid and he should have cool shoes. And just like, he's not dressed frumpy or anything like that. And so anyways, that is how I learned of you. And I was up early one morning and was just looking online, and it said contact us, and so that's how we became friends. I consider you my friend.
Well, I'm so happy you reached out, and I love that. I love your comment about Andrew looking cool, right? I mean, because when we set out for the brand, the last thing we wanted to do is create something that we wanted to make something that would kind of break down those barriers, right? Break down those lines, break down those silos, create something that would work for everybody. I mean, yes, it works. I mean, it's inspired by my disability, like not being wheelchair bound, but at the same time, it wasn't like you need to have a disability to qualify yourself to wear the brand. We wanted to create something that everyone could be successful and enjoy. So I'm so happy that was the vehicle that got us connected, because hearing your story and how this came together, I mean, it just truly warms my heart.
I love it. No. And I have to say, I don't know. I mean, but our initial meeting, and we talked a little bit about this, but I was beyond blown away by you. And again, this is another medium where it feels good to know people kind of that are going through similar journey. and that learn to overcome obstacles and still find joy, maybe even have greater joy. And also use your wisdom and your knowledge that you've learned to help others and to, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at. And not that I'm like preaching all over the place. That's not what I mean. But I mean, like, you realize that life isn't about you. You know what I mean? And that if you can onward focus, how much joy that gives you. And I just feel like we're in a good place right now with Andrew. And I feel so blessed that we are, so that I do have time to serve others. And I hope that, we're still able to do that. And in the rare community, or, you understand what it's like to have health and not have health.
Right.
And that fragile line. And so it's almost like when you get it, you really go nuts and you just live. And that's quality of life, is through that sense of belonging, that community. And it's just really important. And I mean, we just went in our little hometown parade the other day, and I had 2 moms just from our little town of Becker. And that syndrome that Andrew was originally diagnosed with,
Mm-hmm.
this mom's daughter has that in Becker, right? I was just blown away. And then another, like, it was, so I feel like in my heart, we're on the right track. And I feel like that's a sign,
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, yeah, it's matter to just keep leaning in.
Right?
We use that term a lot. Keep leaning in and don't quit.
Yeah. So anyways, I so appreciated our conversation, a few weeks back. And
Well, I mean,
people.
if today is any indicator, and certainly our conversation the first time, you and I can talk for a long, long time.
I know,
Time just burns away.
I know. Sorry, I've probably already gone over it.
Oh, but I did want to give you the mic one more time. Just first off, Nicole, thank you so much. I mean, this is such an honor to have you on the show and to be able to get you to share your story with everyone else, and everyone out there. I hope you're able to get something out of our conversation today. But before we sign off, I want to give you the mic one more time, just to share whatever you'd like to.
I would just say, you know what, if you know someone who has a rare syndrome, or doesn't have a diagnosis, and they're looking just to find a home, you can find us on Facebook. You can, we're at www.project1204.com. And that has linked to kind of everything. So you can contact me by my email, info@project1204.com. And again, that's on our website. And, just get in the loop so that you can get on board, so that they can receive a package at Christmas time for your special child. And we just want to get to know you. And, maybe we could feature their child on our blog, and so others can learn about, that particular syndrome. And I think knowledge is power, and sharing is power. It really does break down walls. And I really truly feel that people truly want to help, right? And sometimes we just don't know how to share how they can, because it's so complicated. But sometimes we can break it down where it's so simple, and like a gift of pajamas. Like, it seems so simple, but actually it's not. It really is wonderful. So.
Well, Nicole, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and you eloquently put that perfectly.
Thank you.
Well, everyone else. So again, on Facebook, you can find Project 1204. On Facebook, it's at Project 1204. On Instagram, it's just a little bit different. There's an underscore in between the 1 and the 2 and the 0 and the 4. And then, of course, the website, which has a ton of information, contact information, as well as a blog you can read up. So everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. Nicole, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And this was another episode of Open Book. We'll have another one real soon. So until then, take care.